Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to another session of Living World of Darkness, New York by Night Camarilla venue. Tonight, we find Limey trying to expand his business, and he initially intended to do this via subtle negotiation. There's a rather large gang in Harlem, and they're the sort of dominant force, a gang called the Royal Russians that he's heard so much about. Little does he know, this gang was previously owned by Jonathan DuPont. Ex-Camarilla turned Sabat, and no longer in the city, but still an incredibly powerful gang, no doubt, due to his own machinations on the matter. We start our scene with Limey surrounded by about sort of 5 of his men, a bunch of sort of well-suited jazz types, and they're in it's a relatively dingy little part of Harlem, a real gutted house, somewhere, you can come if you've got shady business to discuss. And he stood in a dimly lit room looking at a silver platter. Now, if I can just open up the description on Facebook that Bram has been so kind as to send me. Please bear with me. Damn my slow internet.
Want me to give the description of this?
Sorry?
Want me to give the description?
Yeah, my Facebook is running far too slowly. Please do.
Alright. So let me mute you here. Sorry. Oh, thanks. Alright, so there's a first veiled parchment or parcel that's brought before you, set on the table. Your first instinct probably is confusion, thinking, what the fuck is this? Then one of your men unveils this purple veil, this Russian lavender veil from the parcel. And you see the head of the runner you send to start negotiations. You also have the heart, liver, and spleen, and part of the intestines on this beautiful, ornate silver platter. And there's a small note. When you pick it up and give it a read, it's in a beautiful penmanship, handwritten. The Royal Russians would like to let the Archfiends know we run this town. If you don't want all of your men returned to you dead, leave Harlem.
Limey looks at the parchment, and across his usually relatively passive face, he kind of glances from the parchment to this macabre spectacle in front of him, and kind of grits his teeth, and his eyes narrow. He had no particular love for this man, he's just a runner. But he does, he takes it as a rather personal insult, and of course is rather disturbed that such force was used against an emissary. He takes it vaguely personal. He screws the parchment up. He drops it on the floor. He turns to his men, 2 of which are his lieutenants, if you will, men who run the business in his stead, pass the word down the line through the grapevine, etc., and says, "Right, gentlemen, I was hoping this could be a polite business transaction. Clearly, this is not the case. I want 2 unmarked vans full of our hardest boys. I want them armed to the teeth. I'm talking submachine guns, shotguns, a little bit of body armour if we have it. We're going to pay the Royal Russians a little visit. We're going to make them regret not taking the peaceful route, you dig?" And the men kind of nod. There's a certain amount of fear in their eyes, but he he sort of his confidence, the confidence he exudes, seems to settle them. And he gives the address, and he says, "Right, get on it now." And the men clear out, and you see them pulling out their phones, sort of, making phone calls. Yeah, it's going off. You dig? And as everyone clears the room, Limey stops and turns back to this platter and looks down on the floor at this note before calling one of the men back, and he says, "Oh, I want this cleared up." And relatively dispassionately turns the room, lighting a cigarette as he does. What part of Harlem are they in, Bram, or is it just a nondescript area?
Let's just call for a nondescript area, but what you would know of this particular part of Harlem is that the entirety of Harlem is pretty much a piece of shit. But this particular area where the Royal Russians clubhouse is has seen some renovation, some infrastructural integrity that has really improved that particular city block. Whereas the rest is still a piece of shit. That is, you can see the true testament of Ventru money. How they can just turn pieces of a city into their own machinations.
Okay. You give me 2 seconds. I just need to shut my window because it's a little bit noisy out there tonight. So bear with me.
For the viewers at home who would like to know a bit more about this particular clubhouse, it's a gentleman's club, but then members only. And by members only, it's usually Royal Russians only. You're still muted, mate.
Shit, cheers, Bram. Okay, so Limey is picked up from outside this safe house in a nondescript black car, and the other 5 gentlemen who are there have gone, and they're collecting their men. But it's been agreed that these 2 vans will park around the block from the gentlemen's club, whereas Limey will pull up in this nondescript black car just at the end of the road. So he pulls up, and he tells the driver to wait for a little while. And he kind of sits low in the front seat, smoking a cigarette, trying to keep himself relatively on the down low as he looks at this club. I mean, now as he looks at it, what sort of thing does he see? What sort of people hanging around outside? Is it a lot of security,
One of the things you'll notice right off the bat will be 2 gentlemen in fine suits standing outside, looking around. They have those earpieces in, seem to check it every so often. You can see the faint hint of a bulge in their jacket that betrays that there's a sort of weapon that they're carrying. Overall, there aren't too many people around at the moment. You might have seen 1, maybe 2 go inside, but it's fairly slow.
Alright, so relatively slow night now. Limey realises that, because it's a relatively nice part of the neighbourhood, the police probably aren't watching it too closely, but just in case, he pulls out his work phone, beating up old Nokia, and punches in a number, and puts himself through to a contact of his in the Sicilian mafia. And he phones and he sort of says, when he gets an answer, he sort of says, yeah, okay, I need the police distracted for a little while. I need them away from Harlem. Can you dig it? I'll make it worth your while. The usual negotiations happen. And for the record, for any STs who need to check this out, then I'm exhausting my points of Underworld for the month to be able to make sure the police aren't going to pitch up and ruin this plan, if you can call it a plan. Now, as Limey sits in the car, he just tells the driver to wait. He tells him to wait until he sees a man walk out of the club with the intention of having a bit of a chat.
One of the men gets out of the club, lights a cigarette. Just looks. Eventually he does seem to notice a car you were driving. Mute it again.
Okay, thanks. And Limey, leaning out of the car window, will sort of go and sort of just raise a finger, beckon him over, and at the same time he activates Presence 3. Hey you, come over here. And I'll have to roll for that, so bear with me. And I'm spending a point of willpower for an automatic success. Oh, but he didn't need to. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 successes in total.
Oh yeah, this man is interesting.
Hey you, come over here a minute. One word with you.
He looks at one of the guards, shrugs, and walks over towards you. Good night, comrade. What can I help you with?
Yeah, peace, comrade, peace. Why don't you sit in the car, buddy? I've got a proposition for you.
Yeah, of course. Proposition. And I'll open one of the back seat doors and scooch in, saying hello to the driver. Hello.
And the driver will say hello back. Good evening. It's all very cordial. Limey nudges the driver and indicates that he should drive off round the block, just out of sight somewhere, possibly nearby one of the other two vans.
Could you make a quick perception alertness roll just before you?
That's one success.
As you're driving off, you can notice one of the guards talking with his finger against the ear as he is looking at the car. And you can't quite make out what he's saying, but you kind of get the feel that the car you're driving is being marked.
Well, it's an unmarked vehicle. Well, not unmarked, but it's a nondescript vehicle. It's not Limey's car. So hopefully, Limey kind of looks back and he kind of purses his lips. Sort of, he tenses a little as he realizes that these are some serious boys. and the last thing he'd want is to be found out before he's even set foot inside the club. But as the car pulls down, he turns around to the guy and he says, "Hey, cigarette?" And,
He sort of looks at the yes, give me a moment. Of course, for my friend.
yeah, sort of internally. Of course, he's already smoking, but yeah, turns to him and he says, "Oh, I'm just wondering how your night's going, pal. You know, lively in there, is it? Got a lot of your friends in there tonight?"
Oh yeah, I think we are. It is a kind of pact. The girls are working hard, working their money makers, so to speak. Yeah.
Oh, of course. I mean, I understand businessmen and all that. You know, very money central, but I mean, let's face it, you know, we're both Harlem boys. We know the score, don't we, you and me? Because you're a relatively clever sort, I can tell that just by looking at you. Yeah, I'm just thinking, you know, I've got a club myself, and, you know, I just want to compare the numbers. There are a lot of boys in there tonight. Are they, you know, a lot of your friends around? I mean, or is it quite a quiet night? Or is it, you know, a lot of people are at home, you know?
If boys is your thing, I think you need to go to a different place. This is a men's club.
Oh, I understand that, I do. From a similar sort of firm myself. And he turns to him and he looks him in the eye. He sort of says, "Now, politely, I'm asking you, how many men are in the club? Are they well armed?"
Oh, yes, they're always well armed. Um, I think that it's like, kind of like a dozen at most. It's quiet night, quiet night.
Oh, dozen. Oh, dozen. That's very enlightening. Thank you. What about the boss? Is the boss around this evening?
Oh yeah, you mean Uncle Ivan? Yes, yes, he's here.
Uncle Ivan, of course, the venerable Uncle Ivan. And is he in his office or is he in one of the meeting rooms? You know, tell me a little bit about him. Where he is tonight. What's he like?
I suppose at the moment he think he is at the office. Yes, currently working. Yeah, I'm just a lawyer and try to not bother Uncle Ivan that much. But you'll know who he is. He wears glasses. Very dignified man.
I can tell. Mm. And at this point, he kind of smiles and says, "I can tell. Mm. Excellent penmanship, I imagine. Real classy sort of gent, you know."
I suppose.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, man. You know, it must have been a long night, you know, for you. How about you go home, turn your phone off, get some sleep. I can tell you're a really hard-working man. You've earned it, pal. You've earned it.
I have not seen my wife for a few nights. Yes, yes. Oh, thank you, friend. I will go see Olga. Helga? Which one is my wife this year? Oh, it's Helga, of course, because Olga was my first one. She's dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So, Limey's getting a little bit impatient though. It's the one annoying thing about presents rather than dominate. Dominate, you can get straight to the information. Presents, you've really got to butter people up first. But he's growing a little bit impatient, and he's found a dozen men armed. You know, because you know he just wants rid of this man now. So he sort of turns to him and he says, "Well, come on then, off you pop out the car, go and see your wife. Remember to turn your phone off."
Yes,
And you
yes.
know,
thank you. And he will walk out and get out his phone and put it in his pocket and rarely walks away.
Limey turns to the driver, a relatively heavy-set black man in a suit and like a pork pie hat. And he turns to him and rolls his eyes and says, "Fucking Cossacks." Right. Okay. How many boys did we get? What, about 10, 12, 15? How many did we manage to get a hold of? Street 4, I mean, yeah, I figure you've been in this game a little while longer than I have.
Oh yeah, you can get your whole crew here if you want to.
Whole crew's a little bit strong, so I'm thinking maybe I'll call for about 15 guys. Okay. And let me ask the driver to take the long way round the block, back to where the two nondescript vans are. And he sort of he asks, he sort of like, as he steps out of the van, he sort of says, "Right, here's how it's going to go down. Right, you," and he points to two very, very big guys. He sort of says, "I want you out with me. The rest of you, I want you to pull up behind us. As soon as those two bouncers are off the door, I want us up those stairs, flooding in. Do you understand me? If there's a back entrance, I want half of you to go through there. I want you tooled up to the nines. None of this pistol crap. I want SMGs and shotguns. Can you dig it, boys?"
Your men just go, "Yeah, boss, fuck these motherfuckers up, nigga."
Nice. Okay, right. So, if there is a back entrance, I mean, I'm not.
You'll have to check probably when you get there.
Okay, cool. In that case, I'll run a check to see if there's a back way for the men to go in, so we can sort of split the men in half rather than getting mowed down as we come through the door.
What you'll probably also know about this particular gang, the Royal Russians, is that they're not really Harlem native. As in, it used to be a Harlem native gang, but then it was taken over. There was a change of leadership. Different men came rushing in, and what you've heard on the news on the street is that these are like on the road guys that are more keen on dealing with the locals, strong arming.
Okay, so I realise this is an underworld presence, but with but they're sort of focused on the street operations of Harlem, because Harlem has always been a street sort of place, and of course, any underworld gang hoping to move in has to quell the locals first, undoubtedly. So he sort of takes this into consideration when he thinks, okay, so we're probably dealing with a bunch of Russian war criminals. But Limey sort of looks back at his men, and he sort of, notices, these are men who have been raised on the street. They're heavy guys. They've probably been fighting with the Russians before. He trusts them. He trusts them to be able to handle themselves. Oh, fucking hell. Thanks for the message. Mute himself. Okay, so Limey comes around the block, and he searches for a back entrance to the club. Trying to be as nondescript as possible. He's not going to go around the front way. He's going to search through the back for an alley kind of thing.
I'm assuming you're on foot at this point in time with two of your men.
Yep.
Yeah. You do find As you're circling this particular location, you do find an alleyway, and you're quite sure if you jump the fence over there, you'll be able to at least be at the back of this clubhouse. Whether there's a entrance there that you can use, that's something entirely different.
Okay, Limey hops over the fence and looks around for like a fire escape or for like an exit. Is there like a back entrance to this place?
Typical to these kind of establishments, you have the emergency exit at the back. And, you're quite certain that probably this is like the back entrance, the emergency exit. And if you go through, you'll find yourself in the artists' back rooms.
Right, okay, Limey checks the door. I mean, is it a door that's only going to open outwards? If so, can he pick the lock and make sure that it's going to be openable for when the men come in?
You don't see a lock, but there's a handle, and it opens outwards like it should. Uh, but you think you kind of need some strength to open this.
Okay, Limey kind of he's quite a lithe guy. He doesn't look very strong. That's he's a very tall, quite wiry chap, and he sort of looks at the door. And he goes, "Oof, I'm not sure I can open that." And then he remembers, I've been a vampire for over 60 years, and I can in fact open doors like this rather easily. So he invests a point of blood into strength, and just to be safe, he invests a point of blood into dexterity. And he focuses on his vitae and forces the blood to his arms, as is a customary discipline of the Bruja when they activate potence. And he looks at the door and then thinks, if I open this, will an alarm set off?
That is the question, isn't it? Uh, Make a quick perception larceny check if you have it. Otherwise, it's +1 difficulty. So difficulty 7. Okay, yeah. Yeah, you do see the telltale signs of one of those wires that's across the frame of the door and then goes inside. You're not entirely sure if you pull it out, if it fixed.
Well, Limey's, to his eternal shame, relatively used to breaking into places. This sort of thing probably isn't completely strange to him. So, would you like me to roll larceny to see if this alarm's going to set off, or will I know instinctually if this alarm's going to go off if I just cut the wire?
You probably think that if you cut the wire, the alarm won't go off. But that's your instinct. Kind of muted.
Humanity 7, by the way. He looks at the door, and he sort of just pulls out a switchblade and sort of leans up, reaches up, cuts the wire.
You wait a few seconds. You don't hear an alarm. And you're not entirely sure whether that just means there's no alarm going off or that it's a silent alarm going off.
Limey jacks down on the handle and sort of opens it just a tad. Looks like, I don't know, the door might have been knocked, or hopefully nobody's going to pick up on the fact. Hopefully nobody's going to pick up on the fact that this door has been left open, and hopefully a silent alarm has not been tripped. Anyway, he hops back over the fence. I can see that smirk, Bram. And he sort of texts and says, "All right, boys, get into the alley. Door's open. Get into position." And he assumes that one of the vans is going to pull around the back, whereas one of the vans is going to be ready at the front. And he walks up to the front of the club with two men, with his hands in the pockets of his heavy Soul Man's leather trench coat. "Evening, gentlemen. We have an appointment."
What you'll notice right off the bat as you walk towards the entrance is that there's only one guard currently stationed here, who then looks at you in the who might you be?
"Oh, I'm sorry. Did no one tell you we were coming?" "You see, we're the Archfiends, and we're here to have a word with your boss. Do him, boys." And as he says "do him," he pulls his fist back and throws it at this guy, hoping his other men will say the same, hopefully knock this guy out before he gets a chance to say anything.
The man will reach into his pocket or in his coat, but the collective force of you hitting him and the other men him, well, stops him dead in his tracks. And unless you tell your men to stop, they'll beat him to a pulp.
Well, sorry, he kind of stops and raises a hand and says, "I think that's quite enough, boys. We don't want to send anyone to the hospital just yet. Give him an extra dig so he's out for the full hour." And one of the guys pulls his loafed foot back and gives the guy a kick.
A nice teeth goes flying and a spit of blood. It says, "You motherfucker."
"Oh, that's not very nice." And he just stamps on his head one last time to try and knock him out.
And the guy's out.
Fucking mute button. He kind of clicks and points his finger and he goes, "All right, boys, let's do this." And as the men pile out of the van, one of them throws him an SMG, and he sort of ushers the boys in and then walks up behind them. You know, he sort of like flips his collar. It's been a little while since he's done a full gang raid. This isn't really his forte, but he figures he may as well play the part if he's going to be doing it. And he walks into the club. What do I see?
Quick question: is Limey the first one to enter, or are your men entering first?
Oh, he's certainly not the first one to enter.
Well, what happens is the first door opens, then there's a little hallway, and then you have the big double doors into the club proper. And as one of the first men files in, first there's the dead silence. There's no music playing in the club, and it's the silence before the storm as you hear multiple SMGs unloading on this man. And even before you can act, this man falls back through the double door, bloody and dead.
There's that brief moment as he sort of hits the deck, and there's the clinking of shells on the ground. And Limey kind of stands there with the SMG slightly limp in his hand as he raises an eyebrow. Fucking let him have it, boys! As he ushers the men through the door. And I assume all hell breaks loose. And of course...
Oh, yeah. What you'll notice as Limey will be filing it is that sadly, a silent alarm probably had gone off, as about 5 men inside have ducked behind cover and pretty much have the SMGs ready, aiming at your particular direction. There's gunplay going their way. Ever so often there has to be a reload. But there's something that they didn't realize, and that's your other group that come in through the back. And it's that particular point when the tide is turned for your gang, as you lost a couple of men, but eventually, after the first initial shock that they're prepared, your men get behind cover, you get behind cover, return fire. It sort of becomes a sort of even match. Until, of course, your second group has filed in. And then you're left in a dance floor with a stripper pole in the middle and the horrible red drapes, curtains around the stage, and various bodies, blood and gore.
Now, as Limey pokes his head up and he fires, he sort of sees a man get up, and sort of like go to aim his gun. And Limey, with just that little bit of, the thing where he's essentially an 80-year-old man in a 25-year-old's body. He's fit, he's ready for this, and he sort of, just with that little bit of extra timing, sort of, fires his gun off and watches the man drop. He sort of stands for a bit while there's no gunfire going on, and he takes a look around the bar, and specifically he's looking for the office. So before the next men filter through, before the next volley of shots is fired, he takes a quick look around to see if he can find this office. Oh, and I'll need to roll for humanity in a second as well. And if I end up killing anyone.
Oh, any more people? You mean?
Well, I mean, I can take it now as well if you like, because humanity 7, like walking into a massacre isn't brilliant.
Yeah, conscience check in order.
Okay. And that's 2 10s on his humanity check. Limey has once again escaped, losing that little bit more of himself to the beast as he sort of stands up, sees the blood on the walls, almost enjoys it, and then realizes he's probably going to feel a little bit bad about this later.
In your mind, you wish you could have avoided this, or could have avoided this bloodshed. You don't like it. Well, part of you knows this had to be done, but at the same time, it doesn't quite sit right.
Right, Limey takes a moment and breathes before adjusting the hat on his head and taking a look around the club to see if he can find the office. And he's gotten 2 successes on his perception.
Alright, a quick look around this particular area, you will see a door left-hand side that might go to the upstairs. Quite possibly goes to the upstairs. Also, from your men that came in through the back, they'll tell you that they took out 2 men as well there. So all you think half of the Royal Russians that were here are incapacitated.
Okay. He looks around the room, the thin haze of smoke in the air, you know, that eerie silence, the dripping of alcohol from broken bottles along the bar. And he slowly steps forward uh, and takes the clip out of his SMG, shoves it into his pocket, pulls out another one, jacks it into place, cocks it. And he sort of beckons his men along towards the door that previously mentioned that looks like it might lead upstairs, but sticking to cover as he goes. He really doesn't want to take a bullet as he's walking through.
Mm-hmm. As you're about to walk up, a voice can be heard over the intercom. Archfiends, it is very nice that you're here in my establishment, in our establishment, but we would prefer if you were to leave. Quiet in Harlem, and you all have your bodies intact.
Limey puts on his business face and he sort of smirks, and hoping that he can be heard, because he figures it's a venture establishment. Perhaps the CCTV even has a microphone. Sort of looks around, puts the gun on his shoulder, and sticks his hand into his pocket, sticks his tongue in his cheek, and he says, "Oh, no, no, no. I'm here to see you, Uncle Ivan. We could have done this nicely, but unfortunately, it's come to this. I'll be seeing you shortly, or if you're a man, you can come downstairs and face me now yourself. Save any more of your men dying."
Oh, you're funny. You make me laugh. I will kill you last.
"Not if I kill you first, Uncle Ivan. Not if I kill you first." And he sort of stands beside the door, boys, and he indicates that they should shoot through the door first before kicking it in and walking through, guns blazing.
Several shots are fired through the door. It's a wooden door, so it doesn't ricochet off. When there's no audible sound of a thud or anything from the back, from behind the door, one of the men kicks in the door, walks around, looks around, sees the stairs up. It's a nice ornate staircase. Looks around, sort of shrugs.
"Right, boys." The man with the loose tongue outside says that there's a dozen men in here. I count 7 that we've dropped. That means through this door there's at least another 5, not including Uncle Ivan himself. And he makes a quick perception roll to check for traps, etc. in this room. See if there's anything out of place. And he gets 2 successes.
No, not necessarily something out of place. You do hear something, but you're not entirely sure what it is. But it's coming from outside, so it might be a car pulling in, pulling out.
Limey looks at the remaining 10 men and he says, Right, you five. I want you in that main room. I want you hunkered down in cover behind the bar, behind tables, that sort of thing. Because they're boys, they're coming back. You hear me? They're coming back. You five with me up these stairs now. And the walks up the stairs, watching the other man go through to the room, and he indicates a rather large man to go in front of him.
You're expecting something. Men firing at you. But as you go up the stairs and look at there's no one standing outside the office doors. The bigger, heavy-set men, very eager to prove himself to you, then through the door, breaking it open. Looking inside, there's no one there, but there's a TV screen that's been turned towards you, and on it you see a man. Evening, please sit. Let's talk business.
Limey sticks his tongue in his cheek and arranges his coat and says to the men, boys, go downstairs. You wait outside the door. And he leans back in his chair and then gets a text. But he leans back in his chair and pulls a packet of cigarettes out and lights up. Of course, I'm actually going to have to roll, but there we go. That's it. He begins rolling like a cigarillo in like a thick, like sort of tobacco skin paper. Ah, Uncle Ivan, I presume. An honor, an honor. I assume you just left through the back?
I am no longer here, as you can see. However, I do admire your tenacity. It reminds me of my old employer, my old boss.
Your old employer. Who might he have been?
Oh, I would have guessed you would have known him. Then I went by the name Jonathan DuPont, or however you pronounce his last name.
Oh, you know what these French are like. But as he says, Jonathan DuPont, the widest grin appears on Limey's face. A man who's usually so stern and sad looking. This big grin forms. Ah, DuPont. Yeah, of course I know him. He ran afoul of a few friends of mine. Of course, that's good for you. You're in charge now, I assume.
I currently run the operations that he once started. Some of his funds are in our control. Now, we have been watching you guys for some time. And the question that we have to ask is, would you benefit in a partner, an enemy, or to just have us removed from the equation?
Two secs, just gonna open the window. He sort of pulls the cigarette to his mouth and then Oh, you read my mind, Mr. Ivan. A man of your caliber couldn't afford to lose you, could we? However, when you say partner, unfortunately, I'm not in the business for an equal partnership. Now, you're a smart man, you've got plenty of eyes on the street, you know that the archfiends are slowly taking over Harlem. You'll notice that the Harlem Hounds recently fell into line, a group who prided themselves on having a relatively long presence in this city, 50 years at least.
But carefully. Those are children. Come now.
To you, Ivan, they may have seemed like children. I mean, what, you're a Cossack, I'm assuming, you must be, judging by the tattoos on some of your boys, I'm thinking, oh, ex-Russian war criminals. But, I like that. Men like that, they know how to keep a tight hold over Harlem. Like you said, a lot of these gangs around here, children. With a firm like yours on our side, no one would raise a finger to such a partnership.
Alright, let's talk business then. What kind of cut? I'm assuming it's not gonna be a 50-50 deal.
You assume quite right. 50-50, that's not what I'm in for. See, I was thinking somewhere around the realms. I was thinking somewhere around the realms of 75-25, with your own affiliate operations contributing to your business alone.
Yes, I can quite see us getting 75%.
Oh, a sense of humour. I like that in a business associate.
Oh, I'm sorry. You think I'm joking?
I think, Mr. Ivan, that you must be joking if you think I'm giving you 75% of my profits.
That would mean that we need to start negotiating now, don't we? There's a question on my mind. Perhaps you can answer this one if you want. Are you perhaps from the same affliction as my former employer was?
He turns around to the man in the room and he shoots him a glance that says, "You didn't hear that." And then he says, "Leave us." And the man turns and kind of rather sheepishly leaves the room, closing the door behind him. As Limey says, "That I would be, Uncle Ivan."
Delightful, delightful. No. 75-25. Sounds good. But we need to do a little bit better. How about 60-40 with the added benefit that, well, you bring me into default?
Sorry, can you repeat that last bit? Death.
And last bit was, if you bring me into default.
Now, Uncle Ivan, and he drops the cigarette on the floor and stubs it out on the sole of his battered brogue. Says, I am from, shall we say, a different persuasion, a different sect of your master. We can't just go bringing people into the fold willy-nilly besides. So my blood, you have my blood coursing through your veins. Suffice to say, you'd be rather thin on that front. What I can do, what I can promise, is that not to give you, shall we say, guaranteed immortality, but with the feeding of my blood to you once per week, you will find yourself stronger, faster, of a sharper wit, of a sharper mind. People sell far greater than 65-35 for such a privilege.
And what do they sell then? What would you say is a more reasonable price for that offer?
I would insist on 70-30. My club obviously taking the 70, your club taking the 30. And you would have a drastically prolonged lifespan, immunity almost to bullets. You find yourself getting shot, you just heal it up straight away. People will wonder how this mountain of a man managed to absorb such a powerful shot.
The man got ready to light another one. 70-30. For us to leave, or figuratively or openly leave Harlem for the archfiends to take over. While in the background we will continue giving aid. Perhaps over time we can expand to other parts of New York. Yes, I have already have a couple of places in mind.
I knew I had you down as a shrewd businessman. You wouldn't even have to openly leave. You'd just have to openly minimise and accept the fact that the Archfiends are the dominant force now, that you answer to this game. It doesn't even have to be explicitly told to the other firms in the area. They just need to know who are the top dogs around here, exactly who everyone is afraid to cross, namely the Archfiends Street Elite.
Moment. As he looks at the watch on his wrist. All of my men will be there in a minute at the front door, carrying a suitcase. And there, I've already prepared the contract. The specific numbers I'll leave to you too. We signed the contract, it's already been signed on my end, and the deal is official. We honor our deals.
I knew you were a clever man. It has been a pleasure doing business with you, Uncle Ivan. A pleasure. 70-30, not a penny more, remember.
Of course. Not a penny more. No, you have to forgive me. The leader of the Archfiends, I don't believe your name is well known. How shall I refer to you?
You can call me what everyone else does. Limey. The Limey, if you're going for a title.
Oh, the Limeys. Yeah, that's a very fun memory of mine. Uh, Quite good agency over there, of course. And at this particular moment, one of your men will actually knock on the door.
Enter.
The heavy-set man gingerly opens the door. Uh, Sir, there's a man at the front door with a briefcase. What should we do with him?
I want you to check the briefcase. If he's kosher, I want you to send him up.
Of course, sir. Of course, sir. The man will close the door. Meanwhile, you can see just Uncle Ivan is smoking, not saying anything, just watching, really. As downstairs, your men will check the briefcase, open it up, check the seams, make sure there's nothing in there. And there's just, as it's been brought up after it's being checked, there's a folder in there with a contract.
Okay. Limey will sit with his legs crossed and his hands folded. Not trying to be a big presence, not trying to play the hard man, and as the briefcase is brought to him, he'll take the folder out, look at it, and then wave the man out of the room. And as the door shuts, he begins to read the contract. Everything okay? So it's 70% to the Archfiends, 30% to the Royal Russians.
Does Limey have any points in law?
He doesn't have any points in law, but he's not going to sign it straight away. He has a lawyer as one of his allies, a man who owns a law firm. So he looks over the contract, and I'm going to roll the intelligence dice anyway. Just take a look. 4-4. Okay, he cannot. He kind of looks at it and he pretends that that he knows exactly what he's looking at. Sort of glance it over, looks at Ivan, looks back down, and so says, "All right, Uncle Ivan, here's the deal. I'm not signing this straight away. I have men to look at this for me. If you give me a contact number, I'll get back to you within the day."
If you wish to sign the contract, leave it here in this office tomorrow. And if you wish, if everything is kosher, we will work things out from there.
It's been a pleasure doing business with you, Uncle Ivan. My only regret is you're not here in person, so I may shake your hand.
Well, business is not entirely over yet. But let me. Now the next question would be, which particular district has your fancy? Apart from Harlem itself.
Which district would I want to expand into? Am I on Queens for a while? Of course. And he looks at his nails, and a small smile plays across his lips. He says, Staten Island always seemed like an interesting business venture.
Ah, but it will be thinning resources, thinning men across the two boroughs. But for the good of our partnership.
Limey kind of looks at me and says, of course, I wouldn't want to expand so quickly. I'd have to have my men look at the area first, make sure that everything's alright there. There's plenty of space to move into. Can you dig it? We'll have to have a meeting over the next week to discuss where we'll be expanding to formally.
Of course. I do believe that at this point in time it's probably for the best to let you know that we are already going, have been expanding. Whatever the word is in English, I don't know. Expenditure into East Harlem for starters.
Oh, you're looking at expanding across Harlem, I see. I assume that you meant into one of the other areas of the city. You see, along northeast Harlem, that's where my boys actually live. Below them, Harlem Hounds. Yourselves, of course, who are around here. To expand, I mean, I'd like our pool of influences to eventually take up Harlem in its entirety.
Already halfway there, my friend. Together we'll get there in time.
I look forward to the day it happens, Uncle Ivan. Now, and he stands up and dusts a small shard of plaster that had fallen on his coat that he didn't notice it. He says, the night draws in, and as I'm sure you understand, I must be going. I'd appreciate it if this could be taken care of and the appropriate security cameras wiped.
Oh, do not worry. They were already off by the time you entered.
And this is why I can tell that we are entering a monumentously prosperous partnership. Thank you for your time, Uncle Ivan. I'll see you through the week to finalize our deal in blood, as it were.
Yes. I'm looking forward to it. The Limey. Until we meet again. And then the feed cuts from his end.
Limey walks down the stairs and he sort of rolls his shoulders and allows himself the briefest of smiles as he walks past his men. And he sort of motions them to follow him. And as they file out into the street, he says, well, boys, that's another firm under the thumb. First Harlem, then New York. Can you dig it? And to the raucous applause of "We can dig it, boss," he steps into his car, lights a cigarette, and drives off into the night. And ladies and gentlemen, that's where we'll be ending our scene. Thank you, Bram, for sort of NPCing for me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, catch you later.